Hey guys, it's Jay. Welcome back to my channel. Today's going to be a little bit different. I really wanted to talk a little bit about something which just happened to me and I really think it's important to talk about. Before I start, I really wanted to apologize about last week's video as there was none. Sorry about that, guys. Life kind of caught up with me and I know it's not cool, but I am going to have more videos on the way, so don't worry about that. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, and I really appreciate all your feedback and everything you guys have done for me. Anyway, what I really wanted to talk about today was, like many of us out there, and I know some of you have already experienced this, but this is the first time for me, and I really wanted to share this. My account, for my Instagram account, which I just created, was hacked the other day. And I didn't even know it was hacked. I was at a show and I was super busy. I was doing a whole bunch of things, running around, and apparently a notice came into my email box from Instagram telling me that someone had changed my password and my email address. Because I didn't get to it in time, this person was able to access my account and post some nearly naked women on my Instagram page. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they were nice pics, but they're generally not what I would be posting on my Instagram account. So some of my followers actually messaged me and told me that my account had been hacked, or that I was posting some weird stuff and was wondering if everything was okay. To those people, thank you so much for posting. I really appreciate you telling me in advance what was happening. It really helped me jump on the board really quick and try to figure out how to secure my account again and get my account back. Luckily for me, I was able to get my account back. I'm going to do another video about how I did that, because the actual process it took to actually get my account back was not a simple one. I actually had to do a whole bunch of things, jump around a whole bunch of hoops. And to be perfectly honest with you, Instagram, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but if you do hear this, a little bit of feedback, I really think you should improve the way your recovery system is written. Mostly because a lot of the stuff you wrote on your recovery section is kind of redundant. And I think you have a few more options for the iPhone users rather than the Android users. And I understand that Instagram was created as an iPhone platform first, but you know, you have just as many Android users out there, so I really think it would be beneficial if you actually supported them just as well as you support your iPhone users. Anyway, getting off topic. I really just wanted to stress the point that identity theft is a big problem here now in the the 2000s and present day. I remember way back when Facebook was allowing people to, put up their credit cards and all this other stuff. Some people were adopting it really, really quickly, and unfortunately it led to a whole bunch of different mishaps. Well, today's no different. If you're not careful with your account, it can be hacked very, very easily, which I found out today. And recovering it, as I found out, was not easy. So I really want people to understand that it's really a big problem, and it keeps happening. And if you're not careful, they can get into your other accounts too. So today I really wanted to go over 5 steps for securing your account, and 5 really things you got to keep in mind when creating your accounts and keeping them safe. So again, without further ado, here are 5 steps that I think everyone should go through to actually secure their social media accounts. Okay, so first we're going to go with step number 1. This one might not seem too obvious for everybody, but I think that if you are a social media guru, or you're getting into social media, or you want to be more active in social media, my first tip is to separate your social media account from your personal account. And what I'm talking about is your email. I know that everyone has their own email, and they use it for communicating with friends, communicating with their bosses, communicating with any number of people, like friends and family. That should actually be separate from your social media account, especially if you're doing something more like YouTube, where you're actually speaking to people and doing other things on other social media accounts, like you have a fan page or things like that. It's my opinion that you should definitely have a separate account to keep track of all of your social media. So, for example, if you have a personal email account, john@hotmail.com, and that's been your account for 10 years, 12 years, however long it was, and you want to start doing a social media account, my personal opinion is you should actually have a separate account for that. So it could be like johnsocial@hotmail.com. There's a really good idea. And what that enables you to do is it enables you to keep track of your social media accounts versus what your personal accounts are. Because, you might have a really busy day like I had over the weekend, and you can't get to your emails fast enough. But if you're keeping track of your social media accounts, for like what I do for my YouTube and my other social media accounts, I was able to reference back to that email which Instagram sent me a few days ago after my followers had told me that some suspicious activity was happening, and I could track that back, hit on the do not accept this change, and actually start the process of getting my account back. So there's tip number one. So tip number two is something that a lot of people really don't pay as much attention to as they should. Guys, you really need a strong password. Now, this is something which I know a lot of us are kind of like, well, I don't want to have to remember too many passwords, so I just keep the same password on every single account I have. That's a really bad practice. And you know what? I'm guilty of it. I'm pretty sure everybody else out there is really guilty of it too. But the truth of the matter is that you should have a different account, a password for every single account that you have. This is, it's ideally that's what you want to do, and I understand that a lot of people are having trouble remembering passwords. If that's the case, then always make sure you have your password written down somewhere where you remember it, like, somewhere where you're only going to keep it and you know exactly where to retrieve it. This can be dangerous if you carry it on your person and you lose it or whatever, but if you know that you can have something in your house, a little lockbox or something like that where you've had it for years and you can always keep your passwords in there, that's generally a good idea to keep your passwords safe. But first and foremost, you should have a very, very strong password. Now, what constitutes as a strong password? Well, a strong password is usually an alphanumeric password, more than 5 characters, and it should have at least one capital letter and one special character. Now, what are special characters? Special characters are like, exclamation marks, @ symbols, tildes, any of these unusual symbols that people don't generally associate with, a password. The other thing is, you should try to make sure that your password is not a simple thing to guess. Like, for instance, if your name is in your email address, you should definitely not be using your name in your password. I know it just sounds like common sense, but a lot of people don't think about these things. So an example of that is, for instance, if your name is Anna@gmail.com, you should definitely not be having Anna12365 exclamation mark as your password. Now, that's not my password, but for any Annas out there, I would suggest you not putting Anna into your password. A really good example of a password is something, I don't know, a little bit random. Like, for instance, your name would be George, and all of a sudden your password is like ice cream 792 exclamation mark tilde. It's just a random password. It really means nothing, right? Now, I just came up with that on the fly. But again, if you're having trouble creating a password, you can always use a password generator. There are several of them online. If I have time, I'll definitely be linking a couple of them in the description below, and I'll also flash a couple of ones that I think are reliable and that you should use online as well. So there's tip number 2, guys. Use strong passwords. All right, so for tip number 3, this is something which is kind of new, and I think that more social media accounts should be activated with this soon. I know that Google's doing it, and I think that it'll start to become a norm in the future, and that's two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication, which quite literally, I'm not going to lie about this, I just found out about it. It seems to be that it's no longer efficient just to have a password as your authentication. Now, you're actually going to have a two-stage of authentication for most social medias, or at least you should be open to it. So what is two-factor authentication? So the first level of authentication is, of course, your password. We all know this already. The second one is to authenticate through your phone, through text or through actually calling through you. Now, what that does for you is, in my case, after I authorized two-factor authentication, Google sent me a text message with an actual code on it, which told me to enter it every single time that I log in. So, as the name implies, it gives you 2 levels of authentication before you can even reach your account. Now, this is a big thing, because if you think about it, this hacker, this person who was able to access my account, what they were able to do was they were able to actually figure out by guessing what my password was. Now, I have to admit, my password was pretty lazy. I'm not gonna lie. It was really short. It only had a certain number of characters, which was not recommended. And I just wanted to get my account up quick so I could start posting really quick and get back to it later. This is really a dumb move on my part, and I really regret it now because I had to actually go through this whole stage. So that's the first level of authentication. The second level of authentication was that they sent me a code and I had to type it in, and before I can even reach the site, that's actually what happened. So the hacker actually was able to use my username, because your username is actually what you can use to log into your account. And then after that, they probably, through a code generator or, sorry, not code generator, a bot or some sort of hacking program, they were actually able just to go through a simple number of characters, because I did not, and I'll be honest, this particular email I had did not have a special character and only had 1 numerical input. So in reality, it's not that hard with a bot to actually figure out my password. Again, I'll be the first to admit it. I was wrong, I was stupid, and really I should have had a much stronger password on the first set. But now, with this second level of authentication, it makes it even harder for hackers to get into my account. Why? Because not only do you have to actually have a password to get to my account, you also have to literally get a text from Instagram in order to get into my account. Because Instagram, when I try to log on from any device, whether it's online or on my phone, it literally is going to send me a secondary text saying, okay, you just tried to log in. Is this correct? And if you don't have the correct text, you will not be allowed into the account. And that is really, gives me peace of mind, and I think it's a great idea. So, bravo to Google and to anyone else who's, for the social media who's using this 2-stage authentication. I'm hoping it's going to really deter a lot of people who are trying to hack in accounts. If you look on my Instagram account, you'll really realize why I'm kind of upset, but at the same time, I just have to chuckle at what they were posting on my account, which is interesting, to say the least. Anyway, that's tip number 3, guys. 2-stage authentication. Okay, so for tip number 4, we kind of actually reconnect with 2-stage authentication. So initially, when you're signing up for an account, several options will be given to you. And one of those options is to use your phone as a recovery option. Now, this to me is great. I'll be the first to admit, when Google and YouTube started asking for my phone for authentication purposes, I was kind of iffy. I didn't know if this was a good idea or if it was a bad idea, but thinking about it now, I'm already on an Android phone. So Google already has my information as it is, because I am using the Android system to actually use my phone. So in order to use my phone, I have to give them my information anyway, so they've already got my information. So by that notion, why not? It just makes sense. I just killed my phone. No, seriously, lighting, equipment, all this stuff. Anyway, as I said, this actually is probably a good idea, because if you ever have a doubt of losing access to your account, all you have to do is, email Google or email Instagram or email anybody and say, hey, I think my account's been hacked and I really want to get it back. Here's my phone number, here's my access code, and voila, you're back into your account pretty much right away. And after that, you can pretty much reset your passwords, reset everything for authentication, and you're back up and running. Really a lot easier, especially for me in this case, where I didn't use my phone as an authentication device. And yeah, I had to jump through a lot of hoops to try and get my account back. Anyways, guys, that is step 4. which is use your phone as a recovery device. Okay guys, now for step 5, which really is more for specific social networks, but if you can take advantage of it, I suggest that you actually think about doing it. I think that in some cases, people need to be selective as to who they let look into their account. For example, on Facebook, you can create fan pages, but you can also have private personal pages. In my case, I use Facebook privacy to actually lock out people I don't want looking at my personal stuff. So for example, last weekend I had a party to celebrate a good friend of mine who's getting married. Now, I don't necessarily want the entire internet to know who my friends are and what they're doing. So in my case, I really do suggest locking down your accounts as much as possible. You'd be surprised how easily it is for hackers to use that against you in identity theft. I know some people are fond of taking pictures of their driver's license because, oh, you know, it's really cool. It's, you know, I got a really cool shot and this is the most beautiful one I've ever had, and the person who was taking my license really knew what they were doing. Yeah, bad idea. You shouldn't be posting any sort of government authorized identification on any of your social media accounts. That's a really bad idea. It doesn't matter if it's a partial thing or a little bit of your you know, social insurance number or whatever, driver's license, heaven forbid your passport. It's really bad to put any sort of identification on a social media account, on the internet, anywhere. So definitely I would say take advantage of the privacy settings on any social media that you can, so that only certain people are able to see what it is that you want them to see, not what the whole world gets to see. In Facebook, I know that it's really simple to set this up. All you got to do is go to the top tab, and you can actually look at the privacy settings. And sometimes, even when you're posting on Facebook, right at the top of your post, it actually says, who would you like to share this with? And it actually gives you the option on who it is that gets to see your stuff. So guys, tip number 5 is definitely take advantage of the privacy settings on all social media accounts. Well guys, I really appreciate you listening to this tale of woe, if you will. I really did not expect to have to make this video. It's one of those things where I hope that none of you have to actually go through what I had to go through to get my account back, which in my opinion is kind of funny because I have, what, all of 18 followers? Maybe? And most of them are my close friends. So in a lot of ways, it just is kind of weird that anyone would want to hack my account. I don't know why they did it. Maybe they did it just for fun. It could just be a random bot that's doing it on behalf of, you know, the hacker itself. But the truth of the matter is that it was hacked, it did happen, and it's taught me a very valuable lesson as to protecting my own accounts and protecting my own identity. Because at the end of the day, your identity is everything. And if somebody could actually steal, you know, a piece of you, that would be a terrible thing. It feels wrong, guys. It does feel like you're being violated. And although I took it with a grain of salt and actually laughed at what the person was actually posting, sometimes it's not as clear cut as that. Sometimes it can be very malicious. You can actually have people spreading lies about you. You know, your followers, as loyal as they are, could have a different opinion of you after those small posts are, you know, put to light, for example. A really extreme example is, for example, you are, you know, just have a regular Instagram account and all of a sudden people are posting, you know, racial images or you know, hate speech or anything of that nature. So let's say you are a YouTuber or, I don't know, an Instagram celebrity or something like that. And all of a sudden, you know, you have all these posts of, you know, racial discrimination or anything like that. Most of your users are going to realize that it's not you and they're going to warn you. But there are some people who are just going to look at that and say, oh my God, and, you know, unsubscribe. So you really want to avoid that. And again, I'm not a big YouTuber, I'm not a big Instagram star, but my account was hacked. Go figure. Anyways, I hope this video helped you and, you know, is helpful to you in terms of like locking down your account, and a couple of tips that I think are really helpful in terms of protecting yourself for identity theft. Anyways, guys, if you like this episode, please leave a like. It really does help me out. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or anything to add, I mean, I'm always looking for other ways to protect myself on social media. And I think that, you know what, if the community starts sharing and really gives awesome tips on what you guys do, I think that'd be great. So, you know what, why not? But guys, please leave a comment in the section below and tell me what your tips are for protecting yourself on social media. Anyways, guys, if you have any comments or questions, leave those in the comment section below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Check out some of the other episodes I've done. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter.